We are going to show you how to change out your front tire on your KOMOTO X1500 from the ski attachment. When you get your scooter, there's two boxes that also came in it. This smaller box is inside the big box, and this is the additional wheel box it's sent with. In the additional wheel box, there's spacers, and then obviously once we pull out this, there's two things. One's the motor with the cable attached, and one is the front wheel without it attached. Kind of tricky to get out of here. There we go. All right, so that's very important with that. The tools you're gonna need, some came in there with the Allen keys that are gonna need to remove. You're gonna need these, the spacers here for when you put the front wheel on. You need 13 millimeter and 15 millimeter to remove the front ski attachment to get off the ski. We'll show that. I have a rubber mallet because sometimes you might have to stretch this out a little and hit it to get the wheel to fit in, because this sometimes squeezes in with the ski attachment when you first set it up. So we will show you from there. The first thing you're going to want to do is going to get your KOMOTO X1500 up on a box. We like to use the box that the motor and the wheel came in. So after you take out the motor and the wheel, you can use this box to keep up your KOMOTO. You're going to need the 15 millimeter and 13 millimeter normal bolts here to remove these, to take the ski off. These are just loose due to the fact that this is just one that's in the store. So make sure you do not lose any of the hardware. That's very important, because you will need that in the future for the ski attachment. Set the ski off to the side. We're going to need a 19 millimeter socket, or you can use the tools that came with it. So make sure you loosen both sides, because if you don't, it's just going to infinitely spin. So you loosen these two. You need to save these bolts, because these are going to be used to put on the front wheel. Take out these washers. You need to save those. Then you can use the 5 millimeter hex that comes with it. I'm going to cheat by using the power ratchet to save some time here. So you have to take out 1, 2, and then there's 3 and 4 of the screws. Once you do that, this whole piece is going to slide out. Going to save these bolts in that smaller box. There should be a Fender. You're going to need that. Also in the biggest screws, they should be labeled. The rear fender ones are, or the front fender ones are these, with the spikes in them, so they can go into the plastic. The flat ones, save for later. Save everything, set that off to the side. Don't lose any of that stuff. We can do this in a few different steps. What I like to do is actually put the rear fender on now, because it's easier. It's done with the Phillips. You just match up the holes to the fender. Hopefully it's self-explanatory. So you want to have them kind of loose, because once you do, it's kind of hard to line up the holes otherwise. As you can see, I'm shifting it down here. As I was talking about that shifting, you want to make sure you have all the screws in before you finalize it. So once you get these all snug, don't over tighten them. You can probably destroy the plastic. So you'll know when they're snug. You can tell. All right. So now we took that axle. Let's just take the axle out of this, which I didn't. So the axle, that's why you need a rubber mallet, comes out. Skip that by accident. Then we take the wheel, which is in the box here. Check it out before. And then those spacers. In these spacers, there's two of them. One's bigger than the other. You can barely tell. The shorter side goes on the caliper, bigger side goes on the other side. If you don't do that, it will not fit properly within there. So the big one on the opposite side and the small one on the brake caliper side. So another thing that might have to happen is you might have to use this rubber mallet and hit this to expand this out some because it might be too tight. I did that previously just in case. See, look, oh, it's not fitting now. So what we're gonna do then, just a couple taps. Don't be too scared, it's pretty strong stuff. All right, then this is where it gets tricky because you have to put it inside the brake caliper and it might not fit, like so. So if we run into that issue, then we need to remove the brake caliper. Once you do get the wheel centered on here your first time, you won't always have to remove the brake caliper. So we take the brake caliper off. Remember, small spacer on the brake caliper side, big spacer on the other side. As you can see here, the scooter kind of fell back a little on me, but that's okay. All right. So then you have these hook washers. These go on each side. And then the bolts. When tightening them, make sure you tighten one on each side, otherwise you will just pull the axle through because it's threaded. So you gotta make sure you tighten it on each side before you do a final tight. You don't tighten one side and then tighten the other. It will not work. All right, so we got that. Back to our 19 mil. And that's why I tighten each side each. All right, so make that snug, here it spin. All right, so now we're coming over here. I'm gonna look at the brake caliper. Before, when I took it off, it just mounts right here. So what we're gonna have to do is on this brake caliper, you're gonna need to take this and need to loosen these. So then that way, it's kind of floating on there. You do this, otherwise you won't be able to line it up properly within the wheel. Now it's kind of floating, and that's why I loosened these. So once these are loosened, and now we're floating, okay? And that's what I mean by floating, is this moving. So, slap this over brake rotor, line up the holes to the brackets, screw them in. And you hear how it's rubbing. It's not what you want. So if it's rubbing, you have to line it up in here to make it so that it won't anymore. So that requires you to adjust this screw and this screw, top and bottom, to get it so that way it won't rub. So once you kind of tighten one of them, you'll kind of figure it out. So I always like to tighten, like, you know, the bottom here. And then you're going to see how it, you know, you might need to adjust your brake caliper accordingly. So we're running into issues right there. So if that's happening to you and it's not working, what you're going to have to do then is you're going to have to add some spacers in. There's always some included in the box. They're just basic washers. So we're going to take this off, and then behind each one, we're just going to put one washer. You might have to loosen the top and the bottom here to adjust it. I've just kind of gotten lucky so far. So like I said, I'm putting this spacer behind this piece of metal right here. And I'm putting it through. Now I usually have the screw hold the spacer, you know, behind. As you can see, it's kind of fumbling there. So this is what I like to do. I like to put the spacer there, wheel there. Well, if it doesn't keep walking off, might not work due to the surface area I got here. Remember I said I was gonna have to loosen these? I should just listen to myself. Because now it lined up in seconds. Alright, so I put a washer and washer behind there. Like I said, help to loosen those two. Alright, so once that's in there, that might give you now the extra adjusted room you need to line up the brake caliper properly because it was rubbing before. So, tighten these screws. I'm just loosely tightening them to get them close to where they need to be so we have an idea. And then you're gonna hear them kind of rub, so then you can kind of adjust. So look, I had to push it in some. And you'll see, because you could totally tell if it's rubbing or not. So another thing you have to do too on this is when you're adjusting it up here, there's a little screw. This screw changes the depth of the pad, so you might need to adjust this in order to spread the pads in and out. So if you loosen it, it makes the pads out, you spin it in like this direction towards me right now, which is away from you when you're on the scooter, or towards you to loosen, vice versa. So this is how you do that, and that adjusts the pads. So if you're having issues with it lining up, just loosen it up a little first, because then that way it'll give you more leeway. So what you're trying to do is, you can see barely where the rotor's rubbing there. So go back to what I was about to do, and then we adjust it. Make sure these are tight too. And see, we're almost there. So you just kind of keep adjusting it in, because you'll hear it. We're still getting a little bit of rubbing. So we'll adjust the bottom a little. And there you are. It can be kind of tricky, I'm not even going to deny it, but it's really just adjusting this screw and shifting this back and forth till you get the center. If you're having difficulty, like I said, you can go up there and adjust the screw on it. But that is how you put the back wheel on. Hopefully this helps you. If you do have any questions or comments, please let us know. But this is the basic behind that to get the front wheel all attached on with the brake caliper set up.